Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chapter 2 Club's Smart Woman's Guide to Breakups and Everything After. Today's workshop is called Catch It, Check It, Change It, and we are here with licensed clinical social worker of Boost Counseling and Assessment, Louisa Triandis. And a few housekeeping rules. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box below, or you can raise your hand in that bar below, and we will address those questions as we get to it. And you can remain anonymous, and we can't see or hear you unless we allow you to be seen or heard. So you don't need to worry about privacy. And let's just jump right in. So welcome, Louisa.
All right. Well, thank you, Melanie. Happy to be here. So what we're going to talk about today is a tool that I have found to be really, really helpful pretty much with everybody that I work with. I will figure out a way to get that in there somehow. And so I've used this with kids as young as 5, all the way through. My oldest client is 80, so there's quite a range there of people that this is helpful with.
Okay, let's do it.
So, um, we're going to be talking basically about CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy. And what we tend to do when something happens to us is we have what are called cognitive distortions, which are ways that we react to something that happens. Almost, it's like a filter that we process things through in our brain that kind of throw off what's really happening, and then make it where it can seem like a much bigger deal than it really is, and can get us really overwhelmed. So I have this slide just has some common thinking errors, cognitive distortions that a lot of us use. A big one, of course, would be jumping to conclusions. Something happens, we assume that we know what's going through somebody else's head and how they're thinking about it and what they really meant. And we could be totally wrong, but we get ourselves all in a tizzy because we jumped to those conclusions. Over generalizing, just assuming that, whatever the situation is, well, it's just always that way. And so, of course, that's how it's going to be now. So much of the time we look through things with, like, look at what's happening with like a really negative filter, like I can never do it right. I'm always going to screw it up anyway. So why even try? There's no point. I'm just a disaster, and that's just how it is. Again, with there not being really any evidence, at least in whatever is happening right in this minute, for deciding that that's really what's going on. So, just to be thinking about, all right, what are kind of your go-tos for things that you tell yourself that maybe aren't really what's happening? And it's just like having an awareness. Again, we all do this. It's totally normal. It's just not really helpful. So, like so many things, the first thing is being aware of what we're doing. And then we can maybe start to change up our reaction.
Yeah.
Okay. So catch it, check it, change it. This is actually, I first, I don't know, learned about this phrase when I was working with military families. It's a phrase that they use with the Marines.
Hmm.
And the idea is you want to catch whatever the thought is that you're having, and then you want to sort of look at that thought. You want to check it and see, okay, is that accurate? Is that really what's going on? Is that, is there maybe another explanation or another way that I might think about that?
Okay.
And then once you're thinking about it differently, then you can change to a more accurate way of thinking about it. And then you're going to feel different, because how we think about something determines how we feel about it.
Right.
So if I can give some examples just with different ages of how you might use this. You and I have boys who went to school together and used to play wall ball. And there were frequently times when, somebody would be out, and the person who was out would get upset because they didn't really think they were out.
Right.
And, so because even when we're little, we do this, those cognitive distortions would come in. And so they might say to themselves, well, everybody just said that I'm out because they don't like me and they think I stink at wall ball. And so they said I was out. And I really wasn't out. I know I wasn't out. They just said I was out. So first catching it, that like, okay, I'm pretty upset about this. Let me kind of look at what's really going on here and if I'm evaluating it in the right way. Is it possible that I was actually out and it really wasn't anything personal at all? I was just out and I didn't see the ball, hit the line. Turns out when you are running, the moment your foot hits the pavement, it sort of jars you a little bit and you actually, for that like split second, can't see. So maybe I was actually out. All right, well, now how do I feel about the situation? Now my little 5-year-old self is like, okay, well, it's not that everybody hates me. It's just that I was out. So now I don't have to feel like I'm ostracized and I'm, you know, um, not welcome and whatever else I was telling myself that wasn't really real. So that's an example of like how you might explain it to a small child. Usually kids will get that because
Really?
they've all because they've all had the experience of playing on the playground and something feeling like it wasn't fair. Right. And, feeling like, well, the other kids are just picking on me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting actually that even really little kids will get this. And will be able to start to use it. If we're going to go, a useful one for older kids, and this is also useful for adults.
Yeah.
Say I hear that somebody's having a party and I wasn't invited.
Oh, that happens all the time.
That happens all the time, right? And so it can be really easy for us to go to whatever our crazy distortions are about, I'm boring.
Right.
Nobody wants me at a party because I'm not fun. I'm a downer. I'm whatever, right? Things that we tell ourselves that are not true. But okay, let me check that for a second. And if I think about, all right, if I was having a party, uh, would this person be in my first group of people that I would invite? And if the answer is no, which most of the time actually it is, I mean, every once in a while you get, that mean girl scenario going, and that's that's a different kind of thing. But most of the time we can think about it and realize, yeah, I actually I wouldn't invite them either.
Right.
Okay, so if I'm not inviting them, then why do they have to like me?
Right.
Or why do they have to invite me? If it's okay that I don't like everybody else, and it's okay for everybody else to not like me.
Right.
I don't have to be liked by everybody.
Exactly.
And that's hard,
Yeah.
especially, for teenage girls, and even for us as adults. Like, we just have this thing that I think, especially as women, right? That, like,
Mhm.
we want to be liked because
Right.
there's something wrong with us if not everybody likes us.
Right.
But that's really not rational.
Yeah.
There's no way everybody's going to like us.
Right.
So if we can sort of, again, be a little bit more accurate with our thinking, um, and check it, then we can start to change how we feel about it.
Right.
Because now it's like, all right, well, I'm disappointed I'm not invited to that party because it sounds like it's a good time, but it doesn't have to be about me.
Yeah.
So much of this is like making it where it's just not about you.
Right.
And
Oh, go ahead.
well, no, I was just going to say, we're so good at making it about us when it's not.
Well, and I actually have come up with just a prime example when through divorce, since we're talking about divorce support here. Um, when my kids say they want to go to their dad's when it's not their day, or when they make a positive comment about the other house or something that they did. um, in the beginning I was like totally personalizing it and being like, oh my gosh, you like it better over there than
Yeah,
at my house. And I was totally feeling sorry for myself. And then, at some point I got over it and stopped taking it personally. And it's like, you know what? I'm a good parent. I give them, equal love and support, and they get good love and support over there. And they're not, favoring one parent over the other. And, I was totally taking it personally. And then I just figured out somehow just to stop. Caught it, checked it, and changed the
yeah,
attitude about
yeah, yeah.
it. Yeah.
Good for you. And it's not easy to do this.
No,
It does, it, like so many things that are hard but good for us, it takes a lot of practice.
right.
So,
And I
all
also,
right,
had a
go
nice
ahead.
talk with the kids about it too. And they basically, were like, no, we're fine with both, both places. It's no, we don't, they verbally said that they don't prefer one or the other, which is nice to hear also. But
Right.
even if they didn't say that, and talking to the parents out there that maybe don't get that verbal feedback from their kids, it's I think validating yourself and your who you are and what you present, and just knowing that you're a good parent. You don't have to get that validation from them, as long as you're.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially because I think a lot of the times, there will be different sets of rules at different houses.
Right.
And, your house might be the house that actually sets the limits and has structure. And we know from lots of research that kids need structure and limits, even if they say they don't want them.
Right.
So it might be, well, dad's house is way more fun than yours, but it doesn't really matter because you're doing the right thing. So, you know, needing to remind yourself
Right.
that, okay, that really stung, that hurt to hear it, but let me again look at my reaction, and do I feel like I'm doing the right thing by setting those limits?
Right.
Then okay, that's what I'm going to stick with.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
all right. So what we're going to talk about now is cognitive reframing, which is catch it, check it, change it. It's just going a little bit deeper.
Okay.
And the idea is being able to look at a situation and just thinking about how we're thinking about it, and is there another way to look at it? Is there another way to be thinking about it? And we're going to go through this exercise to really kind of spell out exactly how you do that and how this works.
Okay.
So just in general, when you think or when you hear that your boss wants to have a meeting with you, what's the immediate thing that you might think? What's the immediate sort of unhelpful thought or interpretation that you might go to?
I'm
So
getting
here, just as examples, a lot of people, myself included, would go to, oh crap, what did I do?
right. Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Your internet is down and it's, oh crap, I'm going to miss whatever the deadline is.
Can't get anything done. Yeah.
Can't get anything done. People aren't going to believe me that
Mhm.
my internet was down, because that's like just such a useful excuse, but it really happens. And it's really a problem. Your partner tells you they're not going to attend the family get together. They don't like my family. They never want to be part of what is important to me. And again, we can make up all sorts of stories about what's actually going on.
Yes.
So with cognitive reframing, you pick a situation, a relationship, a conflict where you feel upset, anxious, or stressed. And this is really best to do with a recurring situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought what we might do, if you're up for this, Melanie, is just doing some role playing
Sure.
with how you would use this.
Okay.
And what I'm thinking is, I know my divorced friends, my clients, very, very frequently get triggered around issues of sharing custody with their ex, in terms of like something's getting changed up. They have to go out of town for work, and then the ex is like, oh, well, no, it's not my time. I can't take them.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes them really upset. So I was thinking, just sort of for the purpose of showing people how to do this, if you can play the part of the woman who gets upset with their ex
Okay.
because they don't want to step up
Okay.
and help out when help is needed. But of course, they feel like, but you as the woman feel like you're always willing to step up and help out.
Okay. All right.
So,
Let's role play that.
okay. So your first thing that you want to look at is, are you assuming negative intentions? So are you assuming that your ex is out to get you? And
In that situation, I would imagine that the woman would be, yes.
the woman probably would be assuming that. And maybe there's evidence for that, but maybe there's not also. That may be just, the way that she's choosing to look at it.
Right.
Are you worried about a negative outcome? Probably,
Yeah.
right? Because you're stressed about, I have to go out of town
Mm-hmm.
for this business thing,
Right. Yeah.
and
And he won't take the kids, and so what am I going to do? He's not being cooperative. The kids are going to have nowhere to go. Then I need to figure out what to do with work. So there's like 3 different moving parts there.
exactly. And so you're potentially, getting yourself all worked up before you even are having the conversation
Right.
with the ex, just
Yeah.
based on what's happened in the past.
Okay.
Is there another way to think about what else might be happening? And so with this, it's really considering where the other person might be coming from.
Okay.
So, like, if we're gonna take the side of the ex for the sake of this argument, what might they be thinking?
Oh, that maybe they have a meeting or, just can't logistically do it. Not that they don't want to take them, but that they just have a prior commitment, and they're just unable to.
Mhm. Right. So it's not even a personal thing. It could be not even a personal thing. It's going to be difficult for them. And so they are feeling like they're kind of being put out
Right.
by by being asked to do this.
Right.
Um, what are there any positive or alternative outcomes that might occur when you ask your ex to take the kids? If you're not assuming, coming at it as, I'm sure you're not going to be able to do this because you never can, but can you take the kids on Thursday?
Right.
Is,
Um,
is it possible that the ex might respond differently?
yeah, if you word it differently, absolutely. Pre-planning as much advance notice as possible, and just go at it with a nice attitude.
Mhm. Right, because it's really, it's not going to get you anywhere to come at it with, you know,
Right. It's
with
like yelling at
the
the customer.
assumptions.
Right. It's like going to the store and yelling at the customer service person. It's not going to change the situation.
No, no, exactly. Um, so the other piece of this, in terms of considering what else might be happening,
Mhm.
is that piece of, okay, what's getting triggered for me that is now getting in the way?
Mm,
So, uh, obviously, I probably had some issues with my ex, or we wouldn't be exes,
right.
right? So, am I coming in there with assumptions about what his thinking is?
Mhm.
And Is that fair? Is it accurate? Um, is it useful for me to think about it that way?
Right.
Because even if it's accurate that my ex is kind of out to get me, it doesn't really serve me to dwell on that.
Yeah, I was just going to say that even if it was accurate, it doesn't serve me to dwell on it or to respond that way.
So, you know, being able to acknowledge that, okay, I may not get the response that I want in
Hmm.
this from this situation, but that doesn't mean that it has to trigger me.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I have to lose it over it.
Right.
Um, so when you take the time to come up with different thoughts and interpretations about the situation, your feelings about it will start to change. So if I'm able to find some compassion
Hmm.
for my ex, in terms of, okay, yeah, he's working too, and so that is probably problematic for him if I'm coming and changing things up um, at the last minute. And um, I'm going to assume that, I'm going to assume positive intent,
Hmm.
that he wants to be a good dad, but he has limitations on as to, whether or not he's really able to do that.
Right.
Um, and that's on him. It's not about me.
Right.
And yes, it's frustrating to me that he doesn't step up and he isn't the kind of dad I would like him to be for my kids. But I can't really do anything about that.
Right.
So making a conscious decision to say, all right, that's something I'm gonna have to let go.
Hmm.
And I'm going to reach out and ask for help from him in a way that I'm coming at it from, I know you've got a lot of work. I know you're busy. This is what's come up for me. Can you take the kids?
Right.
And then hoping for the best.
Right.
And then also having a backup in mind of,
Yeah.
what else can I do with the kids? So I'm not left feeling like I'm stuck doing this all by myself.
Yeah. Another thing that I actually do with my ex is that we have this kind of agreement of, um, hey, can we agree that if one of us has to go out of town for work, that we check in with the other one first, even if it's not our custody time, and see if the other person is available and can cover. And then if not, then we go to plan B. And we have this agreement of like, each other gets kind of first dibs, first right of refusal to take the kids if the other person has to travel, and then we go to plan B.
Which is great. I mean, that's how you want it to be.
Yeah. So it's like talking about it before, even if you're not, in great communication with your ex, I think just even throwing it out there in a civilized way, like, hey, listen, for upcoming travel, would you prefer if I, would you want to be asked if you could cover first, or do you want me to go ahead and, find alternative plans? Or
Hmm.
take it like by case basis. I think that would be helpful for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, you know, a scenario that I also see come up a lot is with people who are like, "Oh, well, God, I always take the kids when
Right.
he has to go out of town."
Yeah.
And, so there can be a lot of negative thoughts that go along with that
Right. Yes.
too.
Feeling like they're always doing all the work and having the kids all the time. And then they think like, well, if I don't take them, then my kids are the ones that are losing out. So looking at instead of I'm always taking them, but instead of looking at like, well, hey, I want what's best for my kids, so I will take them, you know,
Mhm.
and that's more time for me that I can have them and that they can have, quality time with me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so again, it's looking just, changing how you're looking at it,
right,
right?
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay, maybe this is ruining some plans that I had this week for, that now I'm gonna have my kids, but I have my kids in the overall scheme of your life. You have your kids for a really limited
Yeah,
period of time.
absolutely.
And the older they get, the more you sort of start to panic about how little time you actually have with them. So all right, can I change how I'm looking at it to say I'm going to embrace this extra time that I'm having?
Yeah, totally agree.
So, yeah. Okay, so hopefully that um, is helpful.
Mhm.
There are some apps out there that you can use to help with this. I actually have a worksheet
Okay.
that um, we can make available to people where, you take the situation and you just step by step go through, write everything out,
Mhm.
and that can be helpful with shifting how you think about it.
Okay, great. I'll put that on the website or I'll email that to anyone that wants to access that.
All right, perfect. Okay, so moving on. Um, this last exercise that we're going to do um, is I call what's in your hand. It is very similar to if you've heard of circle of control.
Okay.
Um, circle of control is like there are two um, circles, one inside of, a littler circle inside a bigger circle. And the inside circle is all the things that are within your control, and the outside circle is all the things that are not in your control.
Okay.
Um, I don't like that visual actually as much because it feels like you're stuck inside this, the bigger circle of
Yeah.
things that you can't control.
Yeah.
Um, so I like what's in your hand better.
Okay.
And so, what's in your hand? The idea is that the things that we can control are in the palm of our hand.
Okay.
And what we can control are our actions, the way we respond to things, how we think about things, if we're really deliberate in
Mhm.
our thinking. Um, what we decide to do ourselves is what's in the palm of our hand. The outside of our hand is all the things that we can't control. So everything from I can't control whether or not my state decides to give teachers vaccines so that my kid can go back to school.
Mhm.
to I can't control what my ex decides to do. I can't control the weather.
Yeah.
There's so many things that are not in our control.
Yep.
And if you think about picking up a scoop full of sand, you hold on to the sand that's in the palm of your hand, and all the stuff that was on your fingers, you just let fall through
Okay.
because you can't do anything about it anyway.
Right.
And so we're focusing on what can I do something about,
Yeah.
and having that be where our emphasis is. So I don't know if you can think of a situation where this might be useful.
Let's see. It's easier said than done, right?
It's definitely easier said than done. So
yeah, I guess worrying about from a divorce, standpoint, worrying about, when's the alimony going to end? Can I keep the house? Am I going to find a job? Those things, constantly are in, people's minds, I would imagine.
absolutely. Those are absolutely things that people are going to be worrying about. So thinking about what's in your hand, I'm worrying about my financial future.
Mm-hmm.
I'm recognizing that, okay, that is my worry and that is a legitimate worry. However, I can't do anything about whatever decisions my ex is going to make.
Right.
And getting myself all worked up about it probably isn't going to serve me.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping in mind that 99% of the things we worry about end up not happening. So do we really want to spend all that time worrying about stuff that then really we were just wasting our time?
Yes.
So what can I control? What's in the palm of my hand? I can control figuring out how to get a job, how to get a better job. Do I need to go back to school?
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to get back to school? What path do I need to take to become more financially self-sufficient?
Right.
And that's all I can control. And so when I'm worrying about it, to just kind of check in again, paying attention to what those cognitive distortions are, those thinking errors that we talked about at the beginning.
Right.
And okay, what's kind of starting to take over, and then bringing it back to, okay, what can I control?
Right.
What can I actually do something about?
Yeah. Totally agree. Again, easier said than done, but yes, it's the catch.
Okay.
The catch.
Well, and so yes, so now we come to questions, and it sounds like you've got a question anyway about, okay,
It's
that all sounds easier said than done.
Easier
So
said than done. And I think the catch it is the hardest part. Because once you catch it, I think it's a little bit easier to check it and then change it. But catching it, especially when you're in the heat of the moment, or thought or argument, whatever, with your ex, it's like catching yourself is the hardest part.
yes, and it requires a lot of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So getting to know what your triggers are, getting to know what your distortions are, so that helps you be able to catch things more quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And to be like, oh yeah, there I go again.
Right.
All right, got it. That's not helpful.
Yeah.
It very much is practice.
Yes, I totally agree. It's almost like you need to write it down and look at it every morning, like with intention, like, okay, I'm not going to do this today, or if this happens today, I'm going to stop myself and then switch it.
And I really encourage people actually to put like Post-it notes,
Mm-hmm.
around,
Right.
like on your bathroom mirror. If catch it is your issue, put something that says catch it.
Right.
Just, to remind you.
I need to stick the sticky note on my phone because I do a lot of my communication with texting, right? So.
Well, right. So that would be that would be a good spot to use it. And then, um, I had mentioned that there are apps that you
Oh,
can
yes.
use
What are the apps?
for this. So there are a number of them. If you Google CBT app, a
Okay.
whole bunch will come up. One that I particularly like is Thought Diary.
Okay.
It's free, and it actually, so you put in what the situation is, and and you rate how upset you are about it, and then it will bring up a list of thinking errors, and you just sort of go down and you check off what the ones are that you're thinking. And then the app will then pop up with a bunch of alternative ways of thinking, kind of based on your thinking errors.
Okay.
And then there's space to write out, okay, this is how I'm going to think about it differently now. And then it will say, well, okay, so now that you're thinking about the situation differently, now how do you feel?
Hmm.
And you actually you can save your entries, basically. That's Thought Diary. And that's a really good way to start to have that awareness of what your triggers are, and and what your go-to distortions are, um, to be able to stop yourself sooner.
Great.
Um, the
Awesome.
the other thing I was going to say is, you were talking about, well, it's easier said than done,
Right.
like to let the things go.
Yeah.
And that's definitely, yes, it is easier said than done. And so that requires bringing in however many coping strategies you need to bring in to get yourself regulated, get yourself calm enough to be able to let the things go.
Yeah.
So, and that's another workshop that we've got on here. So, if you need more coping tools, um, that's something to think about.
Yes, there's definitely a long list of workshops that have passed already that our audience can access through our website on the workshop section. So wonderful. Thank you, Louisa, so much. This was very useful information, and I hope our audience out there found it useful as well. You can
I
find
hope so.
on our website at chapter2club.com. And we will have this recording on our website. I suppose if you're watching this right now, you're not live, that you've already accessed our website and you got it there. So, well, great. So we will see you all next time. Thank you, Louisa.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.